And welcome to the Monday, June 29, 2009 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. We'll now call this meeting to order. And first up, we'll have a City Council staff report. We have updates by Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. To not make a long meeting even longer, we had decided to postpone the records retention program discussion for next Monday, as that is an open schedule and there's not many things at all in presentations for that meeting, and to help expedite this one, as there are 2 executive sessions and then a land use committee following. So no comments other than what I had sent you in the memo earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, anybody here from the mayor's office for comments today? Don't see any. Now, we have the 4 committees we usually run through, and I know we haven't met lately, but I'm going to just run down them in case there's some new information that the committee chairs would like. Audit Committee.
No report.
Fiscal Committee.
We will be meeting next Monday after the informational meeting.
Very good. Do you know what the nature of that is, Gerald?
I do, but my stack of papers is too high to look. Hang on a second.
Not only is records retention not here today, but memory retention is it's also scarce.
That's good.
Well, we can come back to that.
I'll come back to it. If that's
Very
okay.
good. How about Land Use Committee?
Land use is going to be a meeting right after this meeting, and we're going to discuss a new sprinkler ordinance, so should be exciting.
Yeah, my lawn needs sprinklers, so that'll be interesting. Public Services Committee.
No report.
No report. Very good. Then we're going to get into item number 9, which is the presentations. And the first presentation is going to be Eugene Rowenhorst, who's our City Director of Finance, and he will give a monthly financial update. Gene?
Okay, Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance. I've got a couple of things to review with you this afternoon. First thing is to look at the monthly financial statements for the month of May. Again, there's really not anything of great deal of significance to report. To start with, you recall we did a transaction where we had some bond anticipation notes, and they were going to be paid off by special assessment bonds. We're paying off the bond anticipation notes, but for right now we are not going to be issuing any special assessment bonds. The reason is this transaction started out, it was supposed to be about $7.5 million. And as it turns out, all of the land that's been involved in it, everybody has paid except for $1.8 million up to this point. So we've got the option to still issue bonds to finance this for the remainder of the year. Probably not going to happen, but the option does still exist for us at this point. $1.8 million, we'll just run that through the cash flow of the second penny and handle it that way. The other thing in the financial statements, this does not reflect any or part of a transaction that we've done with the bonds for the, I believe they call it the 8th Street parking ramp. We called those bonds and we're paying them off. And you'll see those in the June financial statements, but it does not show up in the month of May, so it'll be something that we'll report again next reporting period. On our reserves, again, we're doing just fine, but it's mid-year. And we work on year-end balances, but you can see that our cash balance, we got the set at about an 11% policy level, and we're at 32% right now, and that's primarily because we've got we're getting in the property taxes. If you calculated the unreserved fund balance for the fund balance, which is supposed to be at 25%, we're at 35% right now. So that's doing just fine. Nothing new to really report on the sales tax. That seems, I guess the one thing to point out in the revenue lines on that, if you look on page 2, where it says revenue, go over to the third column, arterial streets, the .08. You can see that we have collected up to this point this year just short of $1 million, $998,000. In the .08, we've collected a total of $8,000 in platting fees. So things are coming in relatively slow. The intent is to let that money go out on a 60-40 split. If you recall, that was the way the second penny, the .08, when it was voted into existence, what the deal was is a 60-40 split between the developers and the city, and we'll pay that money out the same way when there's projects available and when we've got enough platting fees. Right now, there's not enough platting fees there to help that. And the sales tax came in at 1.7%. Again, for the month of May, we don't have good numbers for June. I'll tell you that right now. We got some work to do on those and figure out what's wrong. There's clearly some an anomaly in the reporting, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we find out what's going on with them. On page 7, I'm sorry, is all of our enterprise funds again. They all are doing well and have a good cash balance, and those are the primary funds that all of the rates in that were approved at the end of, or last week, I guess it was, 2 weeks ago. But that's the funds that primarily benefited from it. Other than that, I really don't have anything, like I say, of consequence. It's getting kind of boring, and frankly, that's the way we want it. So,
Questions, Gene? Gerald?
Gene, on page 4, a question about the railroad relocation fund downtown. It's got a negative unreserved fund balance.
that's because the money has been actually moved out. It's a situation where we have to bill them, and then we get the money back, and that'll take care of the 192.
Okay.
It's kind of like the SRF loans, too. You have the same phenomenon there when SRF loans are involved. We have to do the work, and when it's done, then we can bill them and get paid for it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Gene, I had a question. You said the June numbers weren't looking good. Is this due to insufficient data or methodology? Or
Insufficient data.
Very good. Mr. Costello.
Gene, did we get 2 checks yet from the state for June?
No, we have not got the second check yet. That's what we're missing. We've got some preliminary numbers which don't make any sense at all, so we'll see what the check says.
Other questions of Gene? Well, Gene, you're right. Boring is good. We're letting you off the hook easy here.
Well,
today, so.
hopefully the next subject will be just as boring, and that's the just a real short and brief presentation. What you have before you is the mayor's recommended capital improvement program for 2010 through 2014. This project for 2010, and I'll walk you through some slides here in just a minute, for 2010, is an $85 million plan for the year 2010. If you look at the total project, it's $471 million over a 5-year period of time. Some things that we'd really like to report. Over the 5-year plan, it is down 16.4% from the 2009 to 2013 plan. So we had a nice decrease there. And the 2010 plan, just versus the 09 plan, is down 50%. And the reason for that, we'll get into that in just a minute. Okay, first slide. This is we're just going to go through a little bit of an overview here and keep it real simple, and we'll talk with you a lot more in August. The plan balances the needs to invest in new capital and to accommodate growth and to maintain the city's current infrastructure. And what you'll find in this particular plan is a huge effort, huge work being done on infrastructure. That's where the focus is at. Remember that when we're working with the budget, only the 1 year, only the first year, 2010, gets into the budget. The rest of the other 5 years, the rest of it is just a 5-year deal, and it's just a plan. And for that reason, I would like to reinforce it is a plan. And the one thing I probably can tell you about it is a year from now it'll be different. But this is the plan we've got today. Capital program book is managed, is organized in several different groupings. First, on pages 2 and 3, you have an explanation of the sources and uses. It tells you what makes up the sources and uses of the fund. And then there's summary pages on pages 4 through 27. All the sources and all the uses are in one grouping. Then you have the sales and use tax in another grouping that comes out of all of the other uses, sales, sources and uses. And then you have a summary of individual funds. It is really broke down also by capital improvement program and then by OSEP, which is our equipment run. Going to there, here's the numbers that I was sharing with you earlier on the actual program and the change in the program. The difference, if you guys see over the 5-year program, is by $92 million less, or that's that 16% drop. And in 2010, just 2010, the 09 numbers drop from the $170 million down to $85 million. It accounts for a 50% drop. The reason for that big drop is Lewis and Clark was budgeted in last year, so that's out. That's coming out. The flood control bonds, their flood control transaction, that was budgeted last year. That's coming out. And then the railroad relocation, that was budgeted last year also. So those 3 projects account for about 70-80% of that $85 million decrease from 09 to 2010. And then when you go to pages 4 and 5 in the book again, what we have there is the uses of funds, and it's put in there by category and by function. So if we can, you'll be able to understand in great detail, like I say, where the uses of the funding is going. In 2010, the capital program funds used by category, or funding uses by category. We have, you can see there, infrastructure, and over the 5-year plan is $320 million. 60% of that 320 million, or 60% of the 68%. 68% of this total $470 million project, 68% is going to infrastructure. Of that 68%, 60% of that going to infrastructure goes to highways and streets, and 40% goes to utilities. So you can see the strong focus that we've got over the next 5 years on infrastructure. The buildings are a new fire station and a new library, and the other big one in there is improvements and other than buildings, and that is basically all parks type work. Take a look at the next chart of this is the funding uses by function, and in this case 84%, or the two that make up 84%, highways and streets are 44% of the $471 million, and then enterprise funds take up just short of 40%. So that's your total of 84% that's going into public works when you're doing it by function. And then we can move on to 2010 through 14 capital program. This is the sources of the funding. And this goes back to pages 2 and 3 in your book, if you want to follow through there. 30, 41, 42% of the funding comes from sales tax. One's a sales tax 0.08, if you see that in there, and then the other one's just a straight sales tax. That's about 42%. Gives you a sense, again, of where the major chunks of funding are coming from. State loans is the other, probably the biggest one, but that's all your SRF loans primarily. And there's a lot of other detailed things. And then we'll look at sales and use tax and the resources that, the related sources that is broken down by. You got the bar chart up there, and there's two key things to this. The first bar is a 5-year average ending in 2010. And you can see there that 69% of that funding is going to highways and streets. Last year, that number was 65%. And the difference when you put take the 0.08 out of there, that brings that number down or up to 66%. The real trend in this thing, if we had another chart and we didn't put it in here, there's been a steady growth in the emphasis being put on public works. Not a lot, but like I say, a steady growth, and you can see that borne out in there. And then a breakdown of the uses of the sales tax. And this is over the 5-year period, $252 million. You can see that 70% of the sales tax is going for CIP projects. 7.8% goes for what we call OSEP, which is equipment, primarily fleet type stuff, new trucks for fire. We've got a couple of those in there, and then the 22% is for debt service. And I might point out that 22% is less than half of where we can be according to policy of the council. Plus, it is a rather nice amount to be in as far as being able to do additional funding if we need to by bonding. One other thing you've got in your book, it's a loose piece of paper, looks like this. Got lots of numbers on it, and what this does is tell you again and reconciles for you the difference of how things changed from last year to this year. So that little bedtime reading if you would like. So the thing is, we just want to give you a real quick overview of what it is. This will be reviewed in great detail during the hearings in August, and we'll see you in August for that. Any questions?
Questions of Gene? Very good. I don't see any, Gene, so.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Gene, for coming down today. The second presentation is going to be Second Chance Rescue. It's an internal audit put out by Rich Oaksel, the lead internal auditor. Rich?
Thank you, City Council. This was on our annual audit plan to do a compliance audit, and that's pretty straightforward. You simply take the agreement or the contract and you look at it and say, what is this organization supposed to do for us? What are we supposed to be doing for them? And see if we're in compliance and if we have some recommendations for improvement if they aren't in line. I believe last month you got to meet the executive director for Second Chance, Rosie Quinn, and also Lieutenant Olson from the police department who deals with the animal control. And animal control is obviously the point of contact between Second Chance and the city. We want to express our gratitude to Lieutenant Olson and his staff, and also Rosie Quinn and her staff for their cooperation during this audit. It's our impression that the animal control and Second Chance have been working well together on this contract. And we just had a few recommendations. They're starting on page 4. I'll just briefly go over these, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and respond to those. We recommend that animal control keep a record of the number and types of animals when they deliver them to Second Chance. We believe that would give us a little better check on the statistics that we get from Second Chance to make sure that we can reconcile those figures. The police was very responsive to that, and they set a target for completion. Recommendation 2 deals with city ordinances. There are 4 different fees that are collected by Second Chance, but only 2 of the 4 are actually specified in city ordinance. So we recommended that the police could possibly work with the city attorney's office to see if we could make sure that all 4 of those fees are actually addressed in ordinance. And the police was very responsive to that. Number 3 might require a little more explanation. If you have a pet and you bring your pet to your veterinarian and you want to get an animal license, and let's say the animal license is $10 for a male neuter dog or something like that, of that $10, normally the way we read the ordinance is that $10 is supposed to go to the city treasury, and then any compensation for the veterinarian would have to be figured out some way else. The way it works in reality is they're allowed to keep up to $5. So what we would get in the city treasury out of that $10 that the customer pays would be $5. In some cases, the fee is $5, so we get nothing. Nothing goes into the city treasury. And it's mainly a case of, I think, being auditors, we just like to be very strict about that. And if it says all fees and licenses and taxes should go in the city treasury, we just felt that's the way to do it. And then figure out a way to compensate the veterinarians for their trouble. We had a good response from Animal Control. They'll be working with the city attorney's office to see if that needs to be done. Number 4, it was directed at Second Chance.
Rich,
question?
Mr. Benninga has a question.
Yes.
I have a question on that from a policy standpoint and from a procedural standpoint.
Yeah.
Who pays the veterinarian, Second Chance or the City of Sioux Falls?
Basically, what the city is doing is allowing the veterinarian to just retain a portion of that, up to $5. They're allowed to keep that. Second Chance does not. They send all the fees that they collect to the city, but typically a veterinarian will keep that $5, and they're allowed to do that. But it's more of a procedural that the ordinance says that all monies are supposed to go in the city treasury first. We thought that was a cleaner way to do it.
And who approves the bill for the veterinarian retainage, if you will?
Well, I think that's specified in city ordinance. They're allowed to keep that up to $5. And I'm sure that probably doesn't really cover their time and trouble. It's probably they're probably doing that more as a service to the client. I'm sure they'd rather not be in that business, but it's more a convenience for customers. So, number 4 had to do with reporting from Second Chance to Animal Control, and we just had what kind of reporting should be going on, and Animal Control will be working with Second Chance to get that reporting in compliance. 5 and 6 have to do with some very specific things. There needs to be in the animal impoundment area. They separate the biters from the non-biters as far as the canines are concerned, the dogs. But as far as the cats, they're supposed to try and separate the biters from the other cats that don't bite. And that was in the agreement. It had not been done yet, but Second Chance had indicated they were willing to get that complied with. And that's a lot of that's just for protection of animal control officers. And that's what it's about. It's about safety. And then number 6 was a recommendation that when they have the new contract, instead of that 24-hour response time, maybe cut that down to 12 hours. 24 hours can be a long time if there's a case of neglect or abused animals. We thought it'd be prudent to maybe tighten that up a little bit and see if we can make that just a little quicker response. And Animal Control said that with the new contract in 2010, they would try and address that issue. So we felt good about this audit. We felt Second Chance was in substantial compliance. They were very responsive to our suggestions, and we enjoyed working with both Animal Control and Second Chance. Anybody?
Mr. Staggers.
Yeah, Rich, our contract with Second Chance, does that end December 31st, 2010? Or?
Yes, and that was the current contract ends this year.
Oh, okay.
If we gave the impression it didn't, we're mistaken, but it
okay.
I believe extends through December 31st
of this year.
Yeah, and the reason we did the timing of the audit was deliberate, that we wanted to do it kind of the last year of the contract and early enough so that we had not awarded a new contract yet, and we could make any changes to contract language And
Mr. Daggers?
Yeah, do you have any insight, Rich, as to whether the city council would approve this contract or not? I mean, we approve some contracts and don't approve some.
I think the mayor approves this one.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions of Rich? Very good. Thank you, Rich.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the order before we move into our executive sessions? Seeing nothing, I would advise the audience that we're going to have an executive session. It will be two matters. One of them will be contract negotiations, and the other one will be a personnel matter. And we'll also advise you that unless you're intimately involved with these two things, you'll need to clear the room. Thank you. I need a motion to, should we take a few minutes here, guys, or do you want to just move into it? Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved, Benninger.
So move, Benning. I need a second.
Second, Jameson.
Second, Jameson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Very good. We stand adjourned into executive session.